Get it? Yeah. It's a heavy night. Where to? Doesn't matter. We're going to Curitiba again. Same city. Different nightmare. July 2012. Picture this. A maternity hospital. New mothers. Newborn babies. The happiest place in any city. And on July 20th, 2012, the happiness was shattered. A woman walked into the maternity ward of Hospital Evangélico in Curitiba. She was dressed as a nurse. White coat. ID badge. Looked official. Belonged there. She walked up to a new mother who'd just given birth 3 days earlier. The mother's name was Raquel Santos. Her son's name was Emanoel Santos Moreira. 3 days old. Perfect. Healthy. The woman in the nurse uniform smiled. Said she needed to take the baby for routine tests. Said she'd bring him back in a few minutes. Raquel, exhausted from childbirth, trusting the hospital, handed over her son. The woman walked out of the maternity ward, walked out of the hospital, walked to a car, and drove away with Emanoel. It took hospital staff 30 minutes to realize something was wrong. A nurse came to return Emanoel to his mother, but he was already gone. Nobody had ordered any tests. Raquel panicked, screamed, ran through the hallways looking for her baby. Security reviewed the cameras, saw the woman in the nurse uniform, realized immediately this wasn't a mistake. This was a kidnapping. For 8 days, Brazil held its breath. Massive search. Police, federal agents, media coverage 24/7. And on July 28, 2012, they found Emanoel alive, safe, unharmed, with the woman who took him, a woman named Claudette Silva. She wasn't a nurse, wasn't connected to the hospital, had no medical training. She was a 40-year-old woman who desperately wanted a baby and decided to steal one. Tonight, we're going to Curitiba. We're going back to July 2012. We're going to talk about what happens when maternal obsession becomes criminal. You ready? Good. Because this one has a rare ending in our stories. The baby lived, but the terror, the 8 days of hell Raquel endured, that doesn't just disappear because the story ends well. Let me tell you about Bebê Emanoel, the newborn who was stolen from a hospital and the mother who never gave up. Emanoel Santos Moreira, born July 17, 2012, Hospital Evangélico, Curitiba, Pran. Son of Raquel Santos and Claudio Moreira. First child. Planned. Wanted. Loved. Raquel gave birth naturally. No complications. Healthy baby. Perfect delivery. She was recovering in the maternity ward, bonding with her newborn, learning to breastfeed. Normal new mother experience. July 20th, 2012. 3 days after birth, Raquel was preparing to go home the next day, and that's when Claudette Silva walked in. Claudette Silva, born 1972, Curitiba, 4 years old in 2012. Married, no children, and desperate to have one. Claudette had been trying to get pregnant for years, failed. Underwent fertility treatments, failed. She and her husband considered adoption, started the process, but it was slow, bureaucratic, could take years. Claudette became obsessed. Everyone around her was having babies. Her friends, her sisters, her neighbors. She felt incomplete. Broken. Envious. And somewhere in that desperation, she made a decision. If she couldn't have a baby legally, she'd take one. Claudette began planning in early July 2012. She researched hospitals, visited maternity wards, observed routines. She bought a white nurse uniform online, created a fake ID badge. She looked the part. Middle-aged woman, professional, trustworthy. And on July 20th, she walked into Hospital Evangélico. July 20th, 2012, afternoon, Claudette entered the maternity ward. She walked confidently, like she belonged. Staff assumed she was a visiting nurse from another department. Nobody stopped her. Nobody questioned her. She walked into Raquel's room. Raquel was resting. Emanoel was in a bassinet beside her bed. Claudette smiled, introduced herself, said she was there to take the baby for routine blood tests. Raquel, exhausted, trusting the hospital, asked no questions. Claudette picked up Emanoel, wrapped him in a blanket, walked out. Raquel assumed she'd be back in a few minutes. Claudette walked through the maternity ward, past nurses, past security. Nobody stopped her. She took the elevator down, walked out of the hospital, got into her car, and drove away with Emanoel. 30 minutes later, a real nurse came to Raquel's room, said she was there to return Emanoel after his tests. Raquel said, "What tests?" A nurse already took him. The nurse checked the charts. No tests had been ordered. Panic. Hospital staff searched the ward, the nursery, the hallways. No Emanoel. Security reviewed camera footage, saw the woman in a nurse uniform, carrying a baby, walking out of the hospital. Nobody recognized her. She wasn't hospital staff. Realization, Emanoel had been kidnapped. Raquel collapsed, screamed, couldn't breathe. Her newborn son, 3 days old, stolen. Hospital called police immediately. Curitiba police arrived within minutes. Federal police were notified. This was a kidnapping, a federal crime. Media was alerted. Within hours, every news outlet in Brazil was covering it. A newborn, stolen from a hospital, in broad daylight. Police launched a massive investigation, reviewed all security footage, interviewed staff, analyzed the fake nurse's appearance. They released images of the woman to the public, asked anyone with information to come forward. Tips flooded in hundreds, thousands. Police followed every lead. Meanwhile, Raquel was devastated. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just cried and prayed. Her husband, Claudio, stayed by her side. Both parents held on no hope. For 8 days, Brazil searched for Emanoel. Police, federal agents, volunteers. Everyone. Social media exploded. People shared the story, prayed, offered support. And on July 28, 2012, 8 days after the kidnapping, police got a break. A woman called the tip line, said she recognized the woman in the security footage, said she looked like her neighbor, Claudette Silva, said Claudette had recently announced she'd had a baby, but nobody saw her pregnant. Police investigated immediately, went to Claudette's address, knocked on the door. Claudette answered, holding a baby. Police asked to see the baby's birth certificate. Claudette panicked, said she didn't have it yet, said the baby was born at home. Police didn't believe her, asked to take the baby for verification. Claudette broke down, confessed. She'd taken the baby from the hospital, pretended he was hers, told her husband and family she'd given birth. The baby in her arms was Emanoel. Police took custody of Emanoel immediately. Medical examination confirmed he was healthy, unharmed, well cared for. Claudette had treated him like her own, fed him, changed him, loved him, but he wasn't hers. Police called Raquel and Claudio, told them, "We found your son. He's safe." Raquel collapsed in relief, cried, couldn't believe it. 8 days of hell, and her baby was alive. Raquel and Claudio rushed to the police station. The moment Raquel saw Emanoel, she broke down, held him, cried, "Thank God." Emanoel was 8 days older, but safe, healthy, home. The reunion was broadcast on national television. Brazil cried with Raquel. Claudette Silva was arrested and charged with kidnapping. She confessed fully, explained her desperation, her obsession, her plan. Said she never meant to hurt the baby. Said she just wanted to be a mother. Psychiatric evaluation was ordered. Diagnosis: no severe mental illness. She was sane. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She did it anyway. Trial began in 2013. The trial was highly publicized. Prosecution argued this was premeditated, planned. She researched. She prepared. She executed. She stole a newborn from a hospital, traumatized a mother, committed a federal crime. Defense argued Claudette was desperate, suffering from infertility-related depression, not a danger to society. She cared for Emanoel well, didn't harm him. The jury convicted her. Claudette Silva, sentenced to 12 years in prison for kidnapping. She served a portion of her sentence, was released on parole after several years. So what drove Claudette Silva Let's talk about the theories. Claudette desperately wanted a baby. Years of trying. Years of failure. Infertility can cause severe psychological distress. She became obsessed, lost perspective, justified the kidnapping as fulfilling a need. Evidence, her history, her planning, her care for Emanoel. Problem, millions of women struggle with infertility. They don't kidnap babies. Claudette was saying she knew kidnapping was wrong, but she rationalized it, told herself the baby would be loved, that she deserved to be a mother. This was selfishness, not mental illness. Evidence, the planning, the fake uniform, the lies to her family. This theory fits the evidence best. Claudette's plan relied on hospital security being lax. She walked in, took a baby, walked out. Nobody stopped her. Nobody questioned her. If security had been tighter, Emanoel would never have been taken. Evidence, security footage shows multiple opportunities for staff to question her. How did Claudette fool her husband and family? She told them she'd given birth at home. Nobody questioned it. Nobody asked for proof. Nobody asked to see medical records. Either they believed her completely or they chose not to ask questions. We'll never know which. Could Emanoel's kidnapping have been prevented? Yes. If hospital security had verified IDs. If staff had questioned an unfamiliar nurse, if protocols had been followed. After this case, Brazilian hospitals nationwide revised security procedures, ID checks, electronic baby tags, restricted access to maternity wards. Emanoel's kidnapping changed hospital security in Brazil. Claudette Silva served several years in prison, was released on parole, lives quietly now. Emanoel is alive, safe. Over 12 years old now, growing up with his parents. Raquel and Claudio have raised him with love. The kidnapping is part of his story, but not all of it. Hospital Evangélico implemented strict new security protocols. Other hospitals followed. The case became a cautionary tale about maternal obsession and security failures. But for Raquel, the 8 days of hell never fully go away. The trauma, the terror, the not knowing if she'd ever see her son again, that doesn't disappear just because the story has a happy ending. The meter's off. Curitiba is quiet tonight. Hospitals are secure now. Protocols are strict. But somewhere in this city, a mother still remembers the moment her 3-day-old baby was taken, and the 8 days before she got him back. Some traumas heal. Some just become part of you. There's an ancient principle about children and mothers, that the bond between them is sacred, that separating them is a violation of nature. Claudette Silva walked into a hospital and broke that bond. For 8 days, Raquel didn't know if her son was alive, didn't know if she'd ever hold him again. That's torture. There's a truth woven into existence. That desperation doesn't justify crime. That wanting something doesn't give you the right to take it. Claudette wanted a baby, desperately, understandably. But Emanoel wasn't hers to take. He belonged to Raquel and Claudio. They'd waited for him, prepared for him, loved him, and Claudette stole that. I think about the moment Raquel handed Emanoel to Claudette. She trusted, believed the uniform, believed the hospital, and in that trust, her son was taken. That betrayal, that violation of trust, doesn't go away. Even with Emanoel safely home, Raquel will carry that forever. There's a promise in ancient wisdom that stolen things are returned, that what's taken will be restored. Emanoel was returned. After 8 days, alive, safe. That's a miracle. But the 8 days themselves, those are scars. Raquel got her son back. That's everything. But she also carries the memory of the 8 days she didn't have him. And that's a weight no mother should carry. Hey, thanks for taking this ride with me tonight. This one's different. The baby lived. The story has a happy ending. But the terror Raquel endured, the 8 days of hell, that's real too. If this case affected you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about resilience, justice, and the fight to protect what we love. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. How did hospital security fail? What drives someone to kidnap a newborn? What does justice look like for maternal obsession crimes? I read everyone. Share this with someone who cares about child safety, about hospital security, about the resilience of parents who refuse to give up. Next case. New story. Same cab. Until then, remember, happy endings don't erase the trauma. They just prove that sometimes love wins.